Und damit pünktlich hallo und herzlich willkommen. Schön, dass
Hello,
Sie alle
on
mit
time.
dabei sind.
Hello
Hallo
and
und herzlich
welcome. It's
willkommen
nice
in
to have you all
Muriel
here. We would
zur
like to welcome you all here to
DAAD-Universitätstagung
the
mit der Überschrift der kommenden
DAAD
Tage zur
Diversity
Internationalisierung
Conference
und
on
Diversität
the
an Hochschulen.
Internationalization and
Es kommen langsam
Diversity
und ich sehe,
in
dass
higher
wir sozusagen
education.
in dem Format alle reinkommen. Wie schön, Sie zu
Everyone
sehen. Ich sehe ganz viele Bildschirme und ich
is
freue mich auf
here,
unsere Tage. Wir haben
and
eine
I'm
spannende
looking
Fragestellung
forward
vor
to
uns. Wir
hearing
fragen uns
you.
natürlich bei dem
And we
Thema
have interesting
Internationalisierung und
questions.
Diversität an Hochschulen.
Today,
Wie
we
steht
are
es um
asking
diese
ourselves
zwei
what
doch großen
is the
Themenfelder?
situation
Sind das
like in
Selbstläufer
these
oder
two
eben auch nicht?
fields?
Das sind
Are
die
these
Fragen, mit denen wir
surefire
uns beschäftigen
successes
werden.
or not?
Hello
These are the
and a
questions
warm
we are going to
welcome
deal
to
with.
all of you joining us today, but also tomorrow for our DAAD Diversity Conference with the overall theme on internationalization and diversity in higher education. And the question, of course, if these topics might be running on autopilot or maybe not. But from wherever you're joining us today, thank you very much and welcome. Sie sehen schon, wir sind multilingual unterwegs. Wir haben zwei Sprachen, Englisch und Deutsch. Für die Simultanübersetzungen einfach unten links auf der Schaltfläche, da ist so ein kleiner Globus, da draufklicken und dann können Sie dort die Sprachen wechseln. You can switch the languages just on the bottom left side with the little globe sign where you can actually switch between German and English. Auch Untertitel gibt es via Link im Chat. You will also find the subtitles by following the link in the chat. Stummschalten, Video aus, Meldung per Handzeichen, all das, was wir jetzt in der Covid-Pandemie schon zuhauf als neue Sprache gelernt haben, das ist alles im Chat möglich. Graphic Recording, ich möchte Sie ein bisschen mitnehmen, was wir alles vorbereitet haben. Das gibt es auch, findet im Hintergrund statt. Da schalten wir natürlich im Laufe der Veranstaltung
Well,
auch
you
immer wieder
will
hin
see
zu
graphic
unserem Graphic
recording and we
Recorder
will
Christoph
switch
Kellner.
to
We also do have a
Christoph Kellner.
quiet graphic recording, which will take place, of course, in the background, but we will have a look now and then to see the progress of the graphic recording. Und jetzt so mit dem Beginn, wo sozusagen jeder auch weiß, in welcher Sprache er zu
Now that
Hause ist,
everyone
mache
knows what
ich
language to choose,
konkret auf
I will
Deutsch weiter.
then
Mein Name ist Kathi
continue
Gallus.
in German.
Darf
My
Sie als
name is Kati
Moderatorin durch die
Gallus. I
kommenden
am
Tage
the
begleiten.
moderator
Und
for
wenn
the
die
coming
AAD
days,
Zuhörerinnen
and
und mir persönlich
it is
besonders
always a
nützlich,
great joy for
dann
me
ist da
to
einfach auch bei
moderate
mir.
at
Stimmen Sie bitte an
DAAD
meinen Stimmen mit. Es
because
gibt
I
diesen schönen Moment
am
und dann
reminded of beautiful
moderieren Sie es
moments of
doppelt so schön.
my times
Ich
as
freue
a
mich auf
student.
unsere
So I really
Konversation.
enjoy that a
Ja,
lot,
auch
and
da
I'm
der
looking
Hinweis, liebe
forward to our
Zuhörende, schön, dass Sie
conversations.
mit dabei sind.
Ladies and
Sie wissen,
gentlemen,
dass
it's
das
very good
Programm
to have you here
aufgezeichnet
today.
wird. Das können Sie auch
You
sehen,
know that
sobald
this
der rote
program is being recorded,
Aufzeichnungsbutton
and you can
sozusagen
see
im
that
Playback
when the
erscheint. Sie haben ja im
red
Laufe im
recording
Vorlauf der
dot
Veranstaltung,
appears, and
im Laufe des
you have
Registrierungsprozesses
received
eben auch
before
zugestimmt.
the
Wer
event
später
a
und im Laufe des
confirmation
Tages
request,
nicht
and
als Video
those
oder im
who
Video zu sehen sein
would not want to
da
be
kein
seen
Problem,
in the
dann schreiben Sie
video,
das gerne
well, that's no
im
problem.
Chat.
Please
Die
write
technische
it
Firma
just
Media
down in the
Company wird
chat.
dann das
Media company,
berücksichtigen.
the
Kleiner
technical
Hinweis an dieser
company
Stelle, wir
supporting
haben
us will keep that
unterschiedliche
in mind.
Diskussionsformate
We
auch
have different
vorbereitet. Da ist immer
discussion
das Thema
formats for
stellt
you
man
today.
Fragen im Chat.
Sometimes
Das geht
you
dann
can be
natürlich über
seen,
Handzeichen.
sometimes you can
Wenn Sie aber nicht im
ask
Video live
questions in the
sein
chat. You
möchten,
can
dann
raise your hand.
stellen Sie
But
mir die
if you don't
Fragen
want to
gerne
be
über den
seen in
Chat
a
und
video,
nicht
please
sozusagen
just
über das
ask your questions in the
Live-Video-Bild.
chat and don't use the
Kommen wir
live
zurück zu
video
unserem Thema
image.
nach dieser
So that
kleinen
brings us back
Navigation
to
durch die
our
Biografie unserer
topic,
Veranstaltung.
because
Ich habe
now
schon
we've
gesagt,
given you an
Chancen,
overview of
Gerechtigkeit
our
in der
event,
Internationalisierung der Hochschulen. Das ist unser
opportunities and
Thema und die
justice
Fragen, die
in
uns
higher
beschäftigen. Wie
education.
kann
These are the issues we are
Internationalisierung
going to deal
in der
with today.
Hochschulbildung und Wissenschaft für alle
Internationalization
Normalqualifizierte
in
Zugänge
university
gemacht.
settings. How can it
Welche
be made
Barrieren
more
gibt es,
accessible
diskutieren
for
wir noch ab
marginalized
und noch
groups? What are the
Nachwuchsbestrebungen
barriers
und
that are
nachwuchsfähige
still
Wissenschaftler
in
auf dem
place
Weg ins Ausland? Und
for
an
people
welcher
who also
Stelle
want to go
ja,
abroad?
werden auch Personen mit
And
bestimmten
where do
Hintergründen
people with
benachteiligt?
certain
Wenn wir genauer
backgrounds are
hinschauen auf
disadvantaged?
das
Let's take a
Bewerbungsverfahren, auf die Finanzierung,
close look
die
at
Förderangebote,
the
auf die Information, auf die Beratung.
procedures, the
Wir wollen darüber
information,
sprechen, wir sprechen
providing
aber auch mit
information.
Ihnen,
We
den
want to
Incomings und
talk to them.
Outgoings,
We also
wie ich
want to
gesagt habe, mit Ihnen im
talk to
Chat und in unseren
incomings and
Podiumsdiskussionen.
outgoings,
Sie
and
fragen
we will
uns
have
auch,
panel
wie die
discussions, and we
internationale
talk to you on the
Hochschulkooperation
chat.
dazu
And
beitragen kann,
we
dass die
will
Teilhabe
also
von
discuss
Marginalisierten
how we
in
can
der
all
Hochschulbildung,
contribute in making sure
Forschung,
that the
aber auch in der
marginalization in
Gesellschaft
higher
gestärkt werden kann.
education
Auch
uh,
da wollen wir
can
dazu
be
sprechen
dealt
und wir haben
with
ja super
also
viele
in
Workshops
society.
auch
We
vorbereitet,
have
wo
prepared
ja
many
alle ankommen
workshops for
können ins
you. We
Thema.
can
Wir
dive
blicken auf
into the topic.
Kooperation,
We are looking
gemeinsame
at
institutionelle
cooperation,
Rahmenbedingungen auch
joint
angehen
framework
für diese
conditions
geforderte bessere
for
Inklusion von
these
marginalisierten Gruppen.
better requests for the integration of marginalized groups. We also take a look at the diversity management policy, how it can be developed, how you can create info centers for students with special needs. We are going to talk about inclusion strategies, anti-bias training in the selection committees, and a partnership on a level playing field. These are just some buzzwords to give you a rough idea of what we're going to do today. We will have plenary sessions, workshop sessions. We have over 60 people moderating and presenting, and that will give us a lot of food for thought, and we are looking forward to it. I would like to welcome here the Vice President of the DAAD and the President of the Technical University of Lübeck, Ms. Kim Helbig. Can you please give me some feedback if you can hear me? Yes, we can hear you. You have the floor. Thank you very much and welcome also on my behalf. I am very pleased to be able to address you here at the beginning. I would like to welcome Mr. Chitterer, Juan Rayon Gonzalez, representatives of the ministries and the scientific organizations of the board of the DAAD, colleagues and students. Before we get started with today's topic, I would like to mention one thing, because usually I think you feel like the way we do. We are all very affected by the suffering and hardship in Turkey and Syria due to the earthquakes. So on behalf of the DAAD, I would like to express what we all think. Our hearts are with the people who are affected by the earthquakes. The cities affected in Turkey are also locations in which there is higher education institutions. We don't know what the situation is like there, but we can imagine that everyone there is suffering immensely. I would have liked to start with a different setting. I would like to change over, although it is a little difficult for me. I want to tell you where I was at the beginning of the year. That is the residence of the German embassy in Washington, D.C. There is some echo here. A treaty was signed of the German DAAD Germany Award. Benjamin Arthur Gilman was a son of a Jewish Austrian migrant, and he was a member of the House of Representatives, and there is a scholarship based on his name in which marginalized groups are enabled to study abroad. And with this DAAD Germany Award, the DAAD funds 40 different kinds of stays abroad and stays here in Germany for international students. And these are the ideas of implementing grant and funded programs for students. And this is essential in international exchange. Especially exciting was of the evening in the embassy was Miss Stokes. She is a physics student at Alabama. A few years ago, she came to Reutlingen University and she studied textile technology and management. So when we talk about internationalization and diversity, we are talking about equal access and participation in social life and social justice and social cohesion and democratic structures. This is also about equal access to education. When Ms. Stokes talks about that, then it is about one opportunity changing a whole life. So in times of crisis, we need to keep our posture, and crises will have a great effect on our personal lives. The higher education institutions and DAAD faced great challenges. The DAAD is the largest funding organization for international exchange, and we want to reflect the diversity of the society. However, after starting university studies, there is a great difference between the success rates and the start of PhD studies. And this is closely related to the socio-economic factor, that is the educational level of the family, the cultural background, etc., etc. The question for the DAAD is, how can we manage to get people involved who have so far been marginalized and less represented? So how can we create this momentum, the skill momentum? And that brings us to this topic, internationalization and diversity. We have to face three questions. First of all, how can higher education be more accessible? What are the barriers that students and scientists face when going abroad or when students come to Germany? So how can people with certain backgrounds be marginalized, and what can we do about that? Second, how can the justice of opportunities be promoted by cooperation that creates joint framework conditions for all the marginalized groups when it comes to diversity management policies or the creation of info centers for people with special needs. Inclusive teaching, learning settings, and the inclusion of virtual and hybrid internationalization offers are part of this concept. Third, how can the diversity and internationalization at higher education institutions be strengthened and be reconsidered? This is talking about diversity strategies, anti-bias training in selection commissions, or guidelines for partnerships on an equal footing. In its strategy in 2025, the DAAD has integrated the recognition of the funding of equal opportunities as a central topic. The diversity agenda with the title Experience Diversity by Exchange has been developed, and we have spelled out our funding activities and defined objectives, measures, and success indicators. This agenda pays tribute to impulses showing how internationalization and diversity can go hand in hand with each other. So many countries can already include their new aspects into this approach in Germany and abroad. So we can foster interculturality in the educational landscape, but this can only be achieved by our commitment. So we need to improve the mobility among the students and organize this in a more just way. But internal structures need to be adjusted, as well as administrative processes and communication paths and support measures need to be fostered. Although I said we still need to go a long way to achieve that, we can already say we have achieved quite a bit, and I would like to thank you for that. It is a great joy for me to welcome you to this Diversity and Internationalization Conference. And today and tomorrow, we will take different perspectives from interest groups, from universities, and we can exchange our ideas. We are very diverse, and thank you very much for your interest in this conference. So I would also like to extend my thanks to all the organizers of the DAAD who have enabled this conference and prepared for it. And I also thank all the representatives of scientific organizations and higher education institutions for organizing this event. So if we were here all in present, I would like to ask you to raise your glass and toast to us listening to each other, to learn from each other, to talk about personal stories and social change and create diversity, equal opportunities, and internationalization in the education background. Demisa Stokes from Alabama, the student I talked about at the beginning, went from writing to the German Center for Airspace, and she is an engineer with a PhD, and she is developing space suits for NASA. So in historical terms, we might say this was a small step for her, but a large step, a major step for humanity. And I wish you great success for your tasks.
Vielen Dank, Frau Helbig. Und
Thank you,
der
Ms.
digitale
Helbig.